Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Life Aquarian. And today we're going to be discussing Venus retrograde. And no, it's not what you think. You don't have to be scared. You don't have to run for the hills. You don't have to hide under the covers for the next, 37 days or so. Let's talk about it. We're going to get into it right now. So, Venus actually went into retrograde on the first day of March, and there it will stay for 40 days and 40 nights. Where have we heard this before? What does a retrograde mean? Well, you're going to be hearing this again because we also have Mercury going into retrograde later on in the month, in the middle of the month. A lot of us know what that is by now, and we've kind of been taught to fear it. But really, a retrograde planet is one that looks like it's going backwards because the Earth is moving a little bit faster than it is. But it's not going backwards. It's just an optical illusion. And there is a slowing down of that planet's energy. And so, yes, as above, so below, meaning that there is a gravitational pull that impacts us when things are shifting around up there. We feel that. And we feel it in the areas that these planets govern, rule, and represent. So that being said, let's talk about the key themes of Venus. If you know anything about astrology, you probably already understand that Venus is the planet of love, beauty, relationships. Venus rules two different signs. It rules Taurus, which is finance and your possessions, and that's the second house. And it also rules Libra, which is relationships and beauty and diplomacy. And if you know any Libras, and they are some of my favorite creatures, and one of my best friends in the whole world is a Libra, they are charming and beautiful and just magnetic and so much fun to be around. Venus goes retrograde every 18 months. So the last time we experienced this was around July, like July to August of 2023. So if you're kind of curious about how this impacted you last time, even though it was in different signs back then, you can think back to that time. And for me, it's kind of interesting because my partner and I were thinking about moving in together. We were already looking for houses, and we found one and we rented it. And he moved in before I did. And then when I started spending time there, I was like, ooh, I don't like this place after all. Because when you first see something or a house, sometimes we think, oh, we're going to love living here. And then we get in there and it's all the little things, kind of like being in a relationship. There are all of the little things, the little cracks, all of the dirt and the nooks and crannies that you didn't see initially because it was still the honeymoon phase. And what I really loved about this house is I loved the kitchen. It had a really big window and there was so much light. And I liked the backyard. I thought it had a lot of potential. But when we actually put our dogs in it, it didn't work out well because we didn't realize that there was a big patch of the backyard that was just dirt covered in leaves. It was only when the leaves got raked that we realized there's not grass growing, and it's a dirt pile. So I didn't like it. We rented this house during Venus retrograde. Normally we hear not to do that during Mercury retrograde, but this is me working through it right here with you right now and how that impacted me. We rented this house and didn't like it. I was the first one to not like it, and I had my reservations. I still had my apartment, and I was going to get someone to take over my lease, but I began to have second thoughts. I was like, no, I don't want to leave my apartment. I don't want to leave. I don't want to move in here. So I didn't. I made the decision not to do it. And after 6 months of him living there, he decided he wanted out as well. And he was able to get out of the lease. And technically, we were able to get out of that lease and move into the house that we are in right now, which we both love. Love it here. I'm so happy, but we didn't get a really clear picture of what we were getting, and that is Venus retrograde. It clouds our judgment a little bit, especially when it comes to beauty. And so, yeah, beauty, finances, relationships. And so that is why this is not a good time for doing anything, any sort of extreme makeover for your home or yourself is not advised during this time. Because if you're going to get a bad haircut or dye your hair a color that's not really great for your skin tone, this is the time that's ripe for those kinds of bad decisions. So just be careful. If it's the same thing you've always been doing, if it's the same color you've always been using, if it's the same stylist you always go to, that's okay. Keep your routines, but it's the new. It's starting anything new in these areas during this time period that we have to be careful of. And so we have until April 12th, I believe. So we started on March 1st, and now we're going to be in Venus retrograde through April 12th. So some common themes here is, we always hear about exes that pop back up, and that can be true. That can also be true in Mercury retrograde, where people from your past pop up. I've already had this happen to me. I've already had somebody, not a romantic partner, but somebody from over 15 years ago has already reached out to me. I was thinking about you, realized I still had your number, wanted to see how you were doing. Crazy, totally out of the blue. And I was not expecting it. And so you might be seeing this, or maybe it's you. Maybe you're feeling a pull to reach out to somebody from your past. So the whole thing about retrogrades is, because I was going to talk about revisiting, the whole thing about retrogrades, it's all about those RE words: revisiting, revising, reviewing, redoing, renewing. And that is what this is a fertile time for. That wasn't as eloquent. It didn't come out as eloquently as I would have hoped. But what I'm trying to say is this is a really good time for some introspection. So while we may not be advised to go charging ahead down new frontier, this is a good time to think about where we're at currently. Your current circumstances now are all just things that you've manifested, things that you said you wanted, whether consciously or unconsciously. Because the universe doesn't really, it doesn't really sort through, yes, I want this, no, I don't want that. It just looks at the words. It just looks at the thoughts. It just looks at the vibration. So you've created all of this, whether you were consciously aware you were doing it or not. Look around you. This you created. How do you feel about it? How do you feel about the home that you've created? How do you feel about the body that you've maintained? About your aesthetics, about your style? How do you feel about yourself? Because while Venus is the planet of relationships, sometimes we often forget, many times we often forget, the most important relationship we're ever going to have is with ourselves. So this is a really good time to be very mindful and aware of, how are you treating yourself? How are you treating yourself by the things that you think about yourself? Are you beating yourself up? Do you do that? Do you start the day with a list of things that you plan to get done, and then maybe you get distracted? Maybe you say you're not going to go down rabbit holes, and then you find an hour and a half has passed with you researching world events, things that you're not even interested in to begin with, or things that bring down your vibration, things that you know better, you know you're not going to feel good doing, and yet you do them anyway. What about what are you putting into your body? Are you getting delivery? Are you eating fast food? Are you eating a bunch of junk food? Are you drinking a bunch of soda? Are you drinking a bunch of alcohol? And I'm not putting any blame or shame on anyone. If you can consume these things and keep your energy levels high and continue to show up as the best version of yourself, where's the problem? But that is what we're asking ourselves right now. This is the time to be reflecting on the habits that we have right now, on our routines, on what's in our cabinets, on what's on our phones. Is it making you happy? Is it truly making you happy? Is it a moment of pleasure followed by a period of feeling down, run down, let down, tired? I mean, I don't know. Only you know. These are the things I'm having to look at for myself too. These are the questions that I'm also answering as well. So Venus also is tied in with our finances, which means this isn't an ideal time for making big purchases. We might find buyer's remorse running rampant right now. So another relationship that we have, another important relationship that we have, is the relationship that we have with money. What's your relationship like with money? Do you feel like it comes easily to you? Do you feel like you have to work hard for it? Do you feel like the only way to get it is to do something that you don't want to do? Do you feel like you have to work for someone else? Do you feel like you're worth more? You know, if you've been on the fence about raising your rates or asking for a raise, this is the time to do it. This is the time to want more for yourself. I haven't raised my rates in like 2 years now. This is real time. I'm doing this on camera. I'm realizing, you know what? I haven't raised my rates in 2 years now. But you know what? The cost of groceries has gone up. The cost of a lot of things has increased, but my rates have not increased. And people were already getting me at a pretty deep discount, let me tell you. So I don't know. Is this coming up for you? Is this something that you're feeling? Comment down below. Comment down below if you're feeling any of these things that I said so far, or if you're feeling something that I haven't even mentioned yet. Let's really connect with each other. And remember, you're not in this by yourself. This is a collective thing. We're all experiencing it in some form or another. It's going to probably look different for us, but there's going to be some things that are aligned. So how do we work with it? How do we work with this energy? I think one of the things that I'm really wanting to be mindful of is gratitude. So even though we're reviewing things, and in that review, we're going to see some things that are unwanted, that are not desirable, we need to still remember what is. So let's say that you're reviewing a relationship, for example. If it's one that is really toxic and you know it has to go, okay. But if it's a relationship that has brought you a lot of joy and fun and fulfillment and security, and maybe you're just perhaps the things that annoy you about this person are really coming through in stereo right now, don't let that noise drown out what's really important, which is all of the good, all of the blessings, all of the rewards that you have received as a result of being in partnership with this person. And a fun little bonus, we'll call this extra credit. If you want to make a gratitude list every morning to start your day, that would be a really cool thing to do right now, because when little shakeups happen in your world, if you start that day being in a place of, I'm just really grateful to have this, when the noise comes back in, you'll still be on that frequency of gratitude, and it's going to really turn down the volume of all the other things. And I'll tell you, there was maybe it was like a 12-hour period at the beginning of the week where I was dropping things. I dropped things, I made messes, big spills I had to clean up. And because I was in a really good place at the time, I was just like, oh, well, I mean, I started to react. There was one big mess that I just didn't want to clean. And I was like, what am I going to do? Cry over spilled tofu lettuce wraps? No, I'm not. I'm going to pick it up. I'm going to go on with my life. And as soon as they hit the floor, my partner was like, hey, let me come help you with that. So I didn't even have to do it alone. He was there helping me sweep, taking care of everything. It was really great. It was very sweet. I didn't even have to clean up the mess by myself. So that was, that's a blessing. And I'm saying it right here. Again, realizing in real time what a blessing that was to me to have some help cleaning up the mess. So as we're reviewing these relationships with ourselves, with money, with our partner, with our family, with our friends, with people at work, we can begin to reflect on any patterns that are coming through that we start to see are no longer serving us. Maybe you're a people pleaser. Or do I have any people pleasers out there? Anybody putting other people before you? Or maybe just not saying what you want because you want to keep the peace and you don't want to make any waves? Perhaps this is time to reflect on that pattern and see if it's something you would like to continue, because I'll tell you one thing, you are not loving yourself by not getting your needs met. And you know what else? It's no one else's responsibility but yours to have those needs met. So if you're meeting everyone else's needs ahead of your own, that's your fault. And you may think that you're doing some really good and noble deed. And we're taught that self-sacrifice is good and noble. And I'm not saying don't give and be a giver. Of course, we want to do that. We don't want to be selfish. But we cannot give at the detriment of our own well-being. That doesn't serve anyone, because if you are depleted, you have nothing left for you, for anyone else, and that is not doing anyone any favors. So these are the kinds of things you might start to see. Do you spend money when you feel stressed? Maybe you feel stressed about money, so you're like, well, I got to spend more. Maybe that just makes you want to spend more of it. Or maybe every time you spend money, you feel bad. You feel this tightness. You just want to, like a little roly-poly. You just want to, rolling a ball. Like, I just spent money. I just paid my electric bill. That hurt. Woo! That's a pattern that we could clean up. That's something that we could put a little spruce and shine up on. We could spring clean that. And one way that we can transform that feeling, this is another extra credit, homework bonus, is that every time we go to purchase something, every time we take out our credit card, every time we go to pay that bill online or whatever it is we're doing, get yourself in that feeling of gratitude that you have the means to do it. Regardless of how it's there, whether it's credit, whatever, you have the means of paying that bill, and that is a blessing. Just take a deep breath, pull out the card, just smile on your face, swipe, process the transaction, and go on about your business. It's a great time to really love yourself and double down on those self-love practices. One of the things I started doing before the winter, this is a small thing, and you may already be doing this. I was not. was to lotion my hands and my arms and my elbows twice a day as I'm getting ready in the morning before I put on my watch, and then in the evenings, and when I'm shaving, whatever, that will hit the legs. I already had pretty soft skin, but this really kept my skin soft in the winter when it's usually flaky and dry and cracking. Didn't happen to me this winter. That didn't happen because I had this new practice of loving my body through skincare. And I do my skincare every morning, and every night. So what ways can you double down on the self-love this month? One thing that I've really started to do for like 1.5 days is I used to really be consistent with strength training. And I was in the best shape of my life. And I stopped. And while I still take frequent walks throughout the day, I have not been strength training consistently. So I started doing that again this week. And I want to keep that momentum going because I know how much better I feel when I'm doing that. And I've also come to understand and realize that at this point where I'm at with my age, that's more important than cardio right now, which is kind of funny because I'm doing more cardio than strength training, and it used to be the other way around, and I didn't even like cardio. So what can you do to love yourself a little bit more and improve that relationship with yourself? This isn't a really good time to start new relationships because if you go back to my story about when I rented a home during Venus retrograde and how it looked perfect and wonderful and beautiful and all the things, but once we had Venus going direct again, I saw it in a whole new light. Can be the same way with relationships. I'm not saying if you meet some fantastic person, you just say, hey, I'll call you back in 40 days. I'm not saying that at all. Just be cautious. Just be slow. Kind of like it looks like, you know how it looks like the planet is slowing down? We can slow down a little bit. This isn't the time to go full speed ahead with anything. And we might feel the urge to do that because right now we have Venus in Aries. It's going to switch over into Pisces in a couple of weeks, but Aries is a completely different feeling than Pisces. Aries is impulsive. Aries is fire. Aries does want what it wants and wants it now. And there's going to be a lot of this energy kind of flying around. We may be tempted to just act on impulse, act on emotion, whether it's good emotion or a bad emotion. And I really just want to encourage you to take a beat, to just take a beat before every action and ask yourself, is this inspired? Is this aligned? Is this loving? It's a good time for reevaluating finances, not just our relationship with money, but how we manage it. Are you spending a lot? Are you saving a lot? There can be too much of both. Money is a currency. Money is fluid. It is like water. It has to go out. You have to send it out so you can get more of it back. I just always see it as a wheel. In and out, in and out, in and out, in and out. We want to keep it circulating, just like water. If we don't keep water circulating, it just kind of sits in a pool. It gets a little stagnant. Things start to grow in it. Bacteria, algae. It's not good. So keep that money flowing while seeing what it is you can do to improve your relationship with it, your reverence with it. It's a tool. It's not something we should ever worship, but it's also not something we should villainize because it can be very helpful. It's like any other resource on this planet. It can be such a blessing or it can be a curse. And all of that is up to us, our mindset, and how we choose to use it. The last little thing that I would speak on here is our home. And this time of Venus retrograde is perfectly aligning with spring. And for some reason, and I'm sure there is one, I just haven't researched it. For some reason, we tie in spring cleaning, spring cleaning. Spring is the time, that one time a year, when we clear out the clutter, we sweep the cobwebs out from the corners, we clean the baseboards, we do all that stuff in spring. I always have the intention of doing it throughout the year. Whether or not I actually do, that's a different story. But spring is the time for us to do this. In North America, well, I don't even know where all the time changes are happening, but I know that daylight savings time, as of the time of recording this video, is happening in a few days. We're going to actually spring forward because it's spring. So this is just like cleaning time. This is the time. And it's perfectly aligned with Venus retrograde because that really is a good time for clearing out, as Marie Kondo says, those things that do not spark joy. And when I'm thinking of clothing and makeup, if it doesn't make you feel beautiful, if you do not feel good while wearing it, bye. Bye. Couldn't we even feel cute in our sitting around clothes? What if we could feel cute in our scrubbing the toilet clothes? I mean, there's a novel idea. And I say this as a person who has scrubbing the toilet clothes. But what if we just allowed ourselves to release anything that no longer made us feel good, if ever? What if we just let that go? If you've got some jewelry hanging around from your ex, maybe now's the time for it to find a new home. These are the kind of things to be thinking about. Because the thing is, when you let go, when you physically release something, you're making space. You're making physical space for something new to come in, but you're also making energetic space for more to come in. And if you're on this path of like consistent personal growth, you're going to outgrow things all the time. I'm not just talking about, oh, the waist is too tight. I'm talking about this doesn't fit who I am anymore. This doesn't represent who I am now. And anything that's not representative, anything that doesn't represent who you are now or who you are on the way to becoming, it's got to go. And this is the time to release it. And so just a few final thoughts on this. This is nothing to fear. And I know even I got a little scared because anytime I hear shakeups, and I mean, March is we've got a lot of astrological things happening. I may make a video on each one of them to dive in a little bit deeper. I'm aware of the energy just so I can be aware of it, but I'm not going to let this rule my life, and I'm not going to use this as an excuse to manifest something that I do not want. I just use it as a measuring stick to understand what is going to be impacting us on a collective level so that when I see others going through it too, I know where it's coming from. I can have a little bit of compassion, or maybe even a lot, maybe even truckloads of compassion and patience and understanding and love, and remember that we're all going through this too. So we can look at this time as a great and wonderful opportunity for clearing things up. It's just a little spring cleaning. It's just a little spring cleaning that we're doing in the area of money, love, relationships, self-worth. This is the time of year when we can reflect on, do I feel valued? Am I valuing myself? Am I valuing myself by charging this rate? Am I valuing myself by staying in this job? Am I valuing myself by staying in any situation where I don't feel totally valued, loved, worshipped, and adored? questions like that. And as far as reconnecting with past loves and people from our past, I'm not saying don't do it. I'm saying just be cautious. Be cautious about going back down old roads and restarting something that you already let go of to begin with. Thank you so much for being here with me. Thank you so much for sharing your energy with me. I'd love to hear from you. Comment down below. Are you feeling this already? Are you already seeing this unfold in your relationships? If you found this helpful and there are other people in your community that can benefit from it too, I would invite you to please forward it to them. If you could give me a like if you enjoyed it, that helps me so much. And I really appreciate it. It helps me grow my channel and it helps push this content out to other people who could find it beneficial too. I have a free download for you if you want to keep track of all of the retrogrades, full moons, new moons, everything that's going on for the balance of 2025. You can get that download at calendar.lifeaquarian.com. And if you'd like to work with me, well, that would be really cool. There are a few different ways that you can. Just visit my site, lifeaquarian.com, to find out all of the different things that I'm doing and how we can connect. I love you. I am sending you a really big hug. Let's keep in touch. Let me know how things are going, and I will see you next time. Bye, everybody.